to give you a couple of quick little tests about how I see cities, but also give you a couple of my lessons up front. So the biggest lesson that I have for cities is cities have a DNA to them, much in the way that I have a DNA. So this is how I started life when I was 3 months old and had hair, and this is what I'm going to become, right? So I'll be my grandfather whether I like it or not. You all see this. As you age, you see your parents come unto you, right? Good habits and bad habits, and you adjust along the way. I look at this guy. This is when I had hair again too. Then my dad is a model for me in many ways, mostly genetic. I'm genetically Italian, y'all can tell that. But we also have a genetic predisposition to heart disease. So I have to watch what I eat. There's things that I love eating. I love bacon. Can't eat it every day unless I'll have the heart issues, right? So these are things that we consciously decide. Cities are the same things. What's Austin's future? Where did Austin start? Where's Austin going? Where's your hometown start? And where is it going? So that's one of the first lessons. The second lesson, I'm going to give you all a little test here. This is a sophisticated crowd. You should be able to get this.
42.
Okay. Have you seen this before? Okay. Tell me how many shapes you see in the next image. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to tell me how many shapes you see in this next image.
42.
Ready? 42 is not the answer, but it's good. It's a good close. It's close. So, ready? Tell me how many shapes you see. Go.
43.
Okay. Who's got the answer? You had 42, 20, 4, 9.
63.
63. Anybody want to go higher than 63?
84.
84?
Good around there.
Okay. How many kids were on the bus? One.
3.
What bus?
5.
You got it. There were 5 kids on the bus. Our minds have a way of working. There's Daniel Kahneman wrote a great book called Thinking Fast and Slow. Our brains can filter out information when we're given a problem set. And somehow we can miss all the information that's in plain sight. It's because we've decided to choose that out. I steered the way that you looked at the world based on the question I asked, right? Cities are really, really complex organisms, and when a policy goes through at city council or at the county commission, what ends up happening is we talk about the issue at hand and miss all of the other things that are reactive to that. It could be a highway design, it could be a train line. Y'all get that? So basically what I'm trying to do is try to explain how we're missing data that's hiding in plain sight. The work that we do is fairly easy, and you should be able to pick it up. So the biggest question I want to put before you all is, what is a city to begin with? How does a city operate? What's the function of a city? So there's Asheville. This is where I'm from. We are definitely in the barbecue zone. We're in the pig section of the barbecue zone, not the cow section. And we're kind of west of the tomato line, not in the vinegar line. And we're totally not in the yellow barbecue sauce section of South Carolina, so I just want to make things clear. If y'all had that, it's pretty disgusting. Our firm was started by this philanthropist who was essentially an angel investor. He inherited a tremendous amount of money, and he took basically $13 million and invested it into a real estate development company. 75% of our money goes into sticks and bricks. We fix buildings. 25% we reserve to seed businesses. We start up businesses like the first vegetarian restaurant, our consulting company. These are much like this. It's not as cool as this place, but we basically have businesses that start out of our organization. Our time is the direct opposite. We spend 75% of our time with the businesses and 25% of the time with the buildings. The buildings don't do weird stuff or have a party in the restaurant on Easter Sunday that gets a little racy and we find out about it. So this is one of our buildings, typical real estate development before and after. We did these as 400 to 600 square foot unit apartments. So I'll ask the question, like this room probably the hands above me even higher. Who would live in a 400 to 600 square foot unit? Okay, well that's kind of surprising. 4 hands. Let me change the question. Who in this room has lived in a 400 to 600 square foot unit? That was our marketing survey. We were told by every bank that this would go nowhere, so we just went ahead and operated with 100% equity and did it our way, and it's been very successful. But the key thing about what we do is try to find a way to bring information and data to our community. Even though we're a private sector real estate developer, it's in our community's best interest to understand what's going on in Asheville. I love this quote from Michael Bloomberg. And we'll have this all as a PDF if you want to just take it so you don't need to screenshot it. But what's going on by fixing buildings, this is what Asheville was worth back in the 90s, these first two steps were just by fixing existing buildings that were there. We didn't get a new building in Asheville until 2008 in our downtown. So those buildings that were abandoned and forgotten about, we were able to cultivate that wealth. And it wasn't just us, there was a handful of developers doing this. So for us, buildings are a lot like crops. There's a value to it. Land is finite. You only have so much land in your community. So this is one of our buildings. The city invested in doing a streetscape project, and we were accused of being subsidized. Like, people actually said, you're subsidizing that developer by building a garbage can, a bike rack, 2 benches, and a street tree. Publicly accessible, by the way, in front of our front door. We took this building from $300,000 of value to $11 million of value.
Hello.
The one way to see that is that was a 3,500% tax impact on us, right? For fixing a building. We could see it that way. But instead, what we see it as, our community now has 3,500% more wealth to do other things. They can do another streetscape project, build affordable housing, whatever, we don't care. It's about building our community's wealth. People say to me, they're like, well, Joe, that's fine, that's $11 million. We've got a Walmart over here that's worth $20 million, right? That's double our building. This is my house, that's my wife Caroline, these are my dogs. My dogs think they're lions. Caroline and I paid $2,000, we're on 1/10 of an acre. Or if you had a 1 acre cookie cutter that dropped into my neighborhood, it would grab 10 houses, each paying about $2,000, right? So that's $20,000 an acre. The Walmart pays $221,000 in property taxes, which is a huge number, but it took 34 acres to get there, right? So on a per acre basis, it's producing $6,500. Y'all follow me there? Now, if you had an acre of our building downtown, this is what you get. I was in Denver, Colorado, trying to present this to people back in February, and I was trying to drive the point home to them in Denver, and I said, look, if y'all had an acre of land to grow something in Denver, what would you grow? Wheat, soybeans, or marijuana? They got the joke. It works in Asheville too, by the way. But you're probably saying, you know, Joe, that's not fair. There's retail taxes. That's how you make up your money. All right, let's get rid of us. We don't sell anything in our house. This is what people see, $77 million worth of retail sales. The reality is the city gets a portion of that. 27 cents out of the 8 cents that's created, or 27% of the 8 cents. When you run the numbers, it's $4,500. You add that to the property taxes. The total taxes per acre are $51,000 an acre. This is just our property taxes to the city. You add the retail taxes, you're cooking with gas. How do you want to look at it? Jobs per acre? You know, when you put the numbers up there side by side, hands down, the way that we've always been building cities makes economic sense. So there it is. And this, incidentally, I oftentimes recommend the book Moneyball to people. If you ever read Moneyball, it's really a story about looking at data that people aren't looking at. This is essentially the Moneyball of cities. So realize this isn't complex math that I'm doing here. I'm not a mathlete. I don't have a degree in finance. I'm just breaking things down and using land as the least common denominator. So that's the city side. There's also a county side to it. Cities sit inside counties, right? So you're paying a city tax and a county tax. So this is what happens when you look at the county taxes per acre of what a city resident produces in county taxes versus a county resident. See, the city resident's paying about $500 more per acre to the county. You bring them all in at $8,000 an acre in county production, and now you see why an elected official might want to do commercial versus residential, right? Let's go to downtown now. Here's our building. There's the mall at $8,000 an acre. Ours is producing $250,000 an acre in county taxes. What's good for the downtown is great for the city, but it's unbelievable for the county. When we have a police issue and call the police, the sheriff doesn't show up. When we have our garbage that needs to be picked up, the county doesn't pick it up. So this is service revenue that's coming out of the downtown and going out to the broader county, right? Y'all get that? So thinking about that, what does the government do? Why do we have taxation? How does this all work? Let's just read, this is from Webster's Dictionary. Incorporation is the forming of a new corporation, much like these businesses that are here, right? A corporation may be a business, a nonprofit, or a sports club, government of a new city or new city in town. But essentially the cities and counties are corporations. There's corporate boundaries. You just happen to elect your board of directors. Y'all get that? So this city is the citizen's a shareholder in 2 corporations, and the city is a finite boundary of land that has to be managed. It's just a for-profit buildings. We have a $13 million portfolio. Our city of Asheville is a $10 billion portfolio. My city is worth 3 times Donald Trump's portfolio. Now, do you think Donald Trump's looking at his revenue and his cash flow? They're looking at it as a huge financial model. So why aren't we doing it for cities? So, getting to where the money comes from, we did a study in Sarasota, Florida, and if I were a developer building this godforsaken place somewhere in Arizona, we keep track of all the building costs, the buildings, the roads, the architect's fees, etc., and then you just divide it by the rooftops. That's how real estate development works. When the government gets this thing plugged onto the street, does the government go out there and assess it based on the cost of this community? And the answer is no. They assess it on value, not on cost. Y'all know that? So I'm not the first person to kind of wonder, like, why do we do it that way? It actually started with this guy. The Nixon administration published a document called The Cost of Sprawl in 1973. We still haven't caught up to this document, which is kind of scary. But in this, they were looking at pricing out the infrastructure in the residential. The state of Florida did a similar document, and you see that when you spread people out from a residential standpoint, from downtown to a suburban residential area, the more you spread people out, the cost goes up. Is this all too nerdy for this late at night? Are you guys all right?
You're good.
You're good?
You're good.
Okay. So we grabbed a couple from downtown to the burbs, went out to the burbs and grabbed some multifamily at the edge of the county, 357 units, and we said, let's just go into downtown and let's let them be apples to apples. Let's run the numbers. This is the land consumed in the downtown for 357 units, and that's out at the edge of the community, out in the burbs. Same number of people, 1/10 the land consumed. So 1/10 of your portfolio is exhausted, right? That's one way of looking at it. The cost of infrastructure is 57% as much, yet just looking right into the tax rolls, this one pays 870% more revenue than that one. So if that's my mortgage, and this one's your mortgage, this is my annual payment, this is your annual payment, how long will it take the two of us to pay off our mortgages? Or our debt, or our student loans, whichever way you want to look at it. It's going to take me 42 years, it's going to take you 3. So when we look at this and say, okay, well, how do we cash flow this? In real estate development, if I have cost, income, and time, I can do a return rate, a return on investment. So it's an 18% ROI for the urban stuff. It's a 2% ROI for the suburban stuff. So as you look at this cash flow, you wonder, well, what's going on? How are we not going broke? Part of it is the revenue return that you're getting out of this is being floated over to other parts of your community to cover those losses. This isn't even keeping up with inflation. I was presenting this in Idaho to a room full of cowboys, seriously, like real cowboys with hats and guns and the whole 9 yards. What's that? Yes, show me your gun. What's your gun? And I seriously had like sidearms and stuff.
We're in Austin.
So they said to me, they're like, Joe, these are way too many charts for us cowboys. Just show it to us in year 20. So year 20, this is what it looks like. After 20 years, you're still in the hole $5 million. Yet over here, you've grown your wealth $34 million. One of the things that's fascinating to me about cities is we don't geoposition our information. We can't capture this data. We don't do this math. And it's kind of alarming. So realize if you just use the math, if you do the math on these stuff, the world becomes more visible to you and what's happening. We've done this all across the country, just mashing up everybody's data, we see the same trend. For every dollar of county single family that's paid by the county, the city resident is paying about 8 times that in county taxes per acre. This is stripping out, this one pays the city burden on top of it, which is stripping that out. Just everybody's in the same county together. The Walmart's about $7, the mall's double the Walmart, but as soon as you get to a 2-story building, this could be on a small main street or in downtown Austin, it starts to shoot up exponentially. You can cultivate your revenue by just stacking your stories. What we do by, yeah.
Why do 2 stories? Why is that more than double a 1-story?
That's the anomaly of the system. There's a matrix out there of how this all works, and there's mathematics. I'll get into that at the back end, some of the weird math that's out there for the assessment methodology. A lot of it is, that's a $55 a square foot building to build. You don't have to have an elevator, you don't have to have a fire chase, you don't have to have fire staircase, you don't have to have sprinklers, that kind of stuff.
It was one of the reasons why they stopped having Walmarts built in counties, because when they moved out, no one else could take it over. They had no place for stores, they had no place for offices, was a flat-based
Yeah.
economy, no one could take it over again. So it needed at least to have 2 stories to sell it to someone else.
Well, people always ask me, they're like, are you against Walmarts? And my answer is no. It's not. I don't hate the player, I hate the game. You know, what's happening is Walmart has figured out how to make the cheapest building possible and depreciate it as quickly as possible.
And no one else can use it.
They don't want anybody else to use it because they want to just drive it into the ground as quickly as possible. So they can walk away with something with zero value and zero basis. And it's just, they're just using the math of the system that's out there financially. But these are all rules that we create. There are communities, right?
And the point of this isn't don't have Walmarts, it's just invest in the other things.
But no, the point is that the new Walmarts are making them build in 2 stores. So if they just did leave the company, because Walmart would build 1 Walmart here and 1 Walmart here. After a year, the one that failed, they closed down, and no one else would use it. So the cities in the Midwest are making them all making sure joint use and after use.
I can get to that. I'll get to that. So the problem is how we look at things and how we compare things. And what happens is we tend to compare things. Imagine comparing cars on a miles per tank basis, right? If we did, we'd all be driving Ford F-150s at 650 miles per tank, right? You see how silly that is. Yet when we talk about real estate, it's like this $100 million building versus this $10 million building. And everybody gets distracted by the $100 million building. Well, how is it normative? So instead we say miles per gallon, the numbers change. And it changed the cars. We should all be driving BMW Asettas at 70 miles per gallon. 1955 technology beats 2012. Now, that's a very dangerous little vehicle. It's kind of cool though. That's the front door right here. That's how you get into the thing. So if you get in a car accident, you're pretty much stuck in there. But you see the joke. I mean, this is kind of what we do with real estate. So the more that we can help communities get data and evidence on what's actually happening, we can help them increase their decisions in their local community. This is the complex napkin sketch of all of that. So for Austin, you know, there's technology that gives us data, right? So I can go and do an X-ray of all of any of your bodies. I can show you your fillings that you have. So I get hard tissue information with technology. I can change the technology and get soft tissue information. Same head, different data. Hard tissue, soft tissue. You can even do 3-dimensional resonance imaging in the brains. So can we do this with cities? Can we take Austin? This is Travis County. This is the value per tank model, right? So you see, here's downtown right here, but you see some hot spots out here, right? Let's change this to value per acre, and there you go. Now all of a sudden that's the hot spot. So we've got from non-taxable, which is in gray, low tax value, that around yellow you get about 3 million an acre. At about red you're at 28 million an acre, and purple you're over 193 million dollars an acre of value. That's what it looks like in 3D. Can you all tell me where downtown is in this model? Boom. And what's crazy is, in 2 dimensions, it's hard to see those steps. You can see it if you're a cartographer, if you read maps all day, but it's hard to communicate that to an audience to see what does it mean to go from one color to another, but that's what it means. This is the potency. That's for the county, right? If you apply a uniform tax across this, everybody's paying the same tax rate. That's paying a lot more. That's just the city limits. So zooming into the city, this is the city's miles per tank. Again, here's downtown. By the way, y'all have a very interesting edge here. Let me see what's happened with your annexation pattern. This is the miles per gallon. This is your value per acre. And again, here's the city limits with its 3D model. And again, you can see the spike popping up here. Zooming into just the downtown, you see the potency inside downtown. You're seeing some purples at over 193 million an acre. This is the downtown model, just isolating the downtown. You see some tremendous spikes out of that. Third, what's that? Well, I'll get to that actually.
It's on the spot.
Let's kind of skip through this part here. There's other visualization tools that we use. We go old school. This is a mapping called cartogramming, where you reshape rather than keeping the same parcels. Let's go ahead and reshape the boundary of the parcel to show the value. So you see here that New York is the biggest one on the map because it's the biggest energy seller in the entire country at the time, 10 times the size of Wisconsin. So visually you can see that Wisconsin is number 10 in the process, right? Very quickly you can read that map. So this is your county value. Here's your county's cartogram. So your downtown takes up that much land area, but it feels 68 times the potency of that land area. So think about that for a second. If y'all had one person in your office producing 68% of your sales or your product or whatever, how would you treat that one person? It's called product efficiency, right? So this is what it feels like to the county. We had other data sets, so we compared you against Mecklenburg, and which is Charlotte, and Davidson, which is Nashville. They're kind of like cousins to y'all. They're not as big as your city, but they're pretty close. This one is also a state capital, so it matches up with you all that way. From a standpoint of your city, Austin takes up 24% of the land area of the entire county, yet the value of it in the county taxes that are produced are close to 70% of the revenue. So again, this is when you just pull into the county's property tax revenues, and where the county gets its property taxes, they're getting the lion's share from a small portion. This is kind of hard to see, but this is Nashville compared to you guys. We saw the same spines coming out, both heading toward the university. In Nashville, they were heading toward Vanderbilt. For y'all, you've got your main spine of downtown, but you have the secondary ridge line that goes out past the university. So you can actually cultivate more revenue here too. It's an asset. You all know that, but this is what it looks like visually with the data. Train lines, Charlotte has a train line, you all have a train line. Two different animals though. It's not apples to apples. This is the Charlotte line right there. This is your line. It's about 3 times the distance. There's other key differences. So Charlotte has a dedicated transit line. It doesn't have to share with freight. They cultivated density closer to their city, so they focused on treating it like a density creator rather than a regional commuter. So it's a different animal that way. There's also shorter stop distances. You can see all the stops here versus how far apart yours are. And then they also have higher frequency. Their train line runs from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. So they
use that investment to go where the density already is, or where they wanted the density to be?
Kind of both. When they first ran the train line, they were running through like used car lots and surface parking lots. But they basically realized that that corridor could cultivate new buildings and growth. It would be easy for developers to build there because going by a used car lot. This is what it looks like visually. Here's your downtown, and here we grab transit-oriented development, like little nodes of what people would walk to a train station. And like a cookie cutter, we just pulled all the stations out. So those are your nodes. Here's Charlotte, and notice the difference in this node here. So let's go back a second. This is your first node. That's Charlotte's first node. So they cultivated a lot more revenue here than you all were able to capture. So on average, if you pull all that real estate, y'all are averaging about $650,000 an acre inside your nodes, while Charlotte's harvesting almost double that. So this is a lesson to learn from Charlotte. Talk to those folks, see what they did. Is it zoning? Is it developers? How did it work to do that?
But aren't their nodes, aren't they starting out in denser areas than what we're sending our grain out to?
No. Short answer is no. But the other thing is also y'all are talking about a new train line here too. It's going to be a different path, and you have opportunities to look at that. But there's, if you went to Charlotte 15 years ago and saw where they were running this thing, you'd be like, why are they doing this here? So here's where y'all actually have a more potent TOD in your downtown versus Charlotte's. But this is where you drop off, is that first train line, that first train stop. And here's Charlotte. So they've been able to capitalize on building density within a couple miles of their downtown, rather than spreading it further out the way that you all did. And it represents an opportunity in city, but also county taxes. The county's going to realize that revenue generator as well. So this is averaging about 3.6 million, and that's about $1 million in value. It's a huge step. There's also, in addition to property taxes, there's retail sales. And this is kind of a little bit weird, but here's the boundary for Travis County. Your state only allows us to get retail taxes by zip code. The zip codes cross those boundaries, so unfortunately we have like 6 different counties in here. But it'll give you an idea of Austin's effect in Central Texas. So this is your mixed beverage sales. So your downtown's really drinking quite well. And whoever lives across the river, y'all should be thankful for all your beer consumption too. With the second step here, 78704 is zip code. South Austin.
Yeah.
When you get into the hotel taxes, this number 2 is down here at Rosedale Burnett area. And then here's your CBD. You caught me on that. This is your retail sales, your food and sales tax. If you go and buy a clicker at a tech store or whatever. What's interesting though is, y'all notice what's happening in the map? Look at how wide this is. And we've actually had to shrink the map down to fit that on. And the spike starts to just shoot through the roof. And it necks down even more when you do the combined sales, of putting all the sales together. And that's how downtown's killing it compared to everything else in the whole entire 6-county region. Add in the property taxes, and it's getting obscene. So again, this is a way to kind of model and visualize quantitative data, right? Y'all didn't see this today. We messed around with the new one of trying a cartogram with the total valuation. This is what it looks like. So that's what the core area of your city looks like, that zip code. This is what it feels like financially with all the combined taxation. Let's kind of skip through this. So the general area that you all know is the core of your city, your downtown university area, all the way up to Coney, basically takes up about 1% of the county's land area, but produces 12% of the county's revenue. So it's incredibly potent. And just to kind of flip through some examples, like everybody knows the Walmart, right? So this is your average Walmart at about $780,000 an acre of value, right? Which is more value per acre than the domain. So the Walmart is actually more tax productive from a property standpoint than the domain. This is the Samsung R&D campus at about $670,000 per acre. This is the 3M campus at about $540,000 per acre. Less value than the Walmart on a per acre basis. This is I love this name, South Park Meadows. This is the meadow right here. 1.3 million an acre, let's say, compared to the Walmart. Barton Creek Mall at let's call it 2 million an acre. When you get into the downtown, you expect to see this, right? Huge potency, 123 million and 108 million. Again, compared to the, let's say, $800,000 Walmart. What's kind of insane about this is, I was expecting this one to kind of be more potent. But you don't have to be a tall building to be productive. You can see 42 million an acre, 31 million an acre, and this one's 30 million. Even this low-rise building is a handsome producer of tax density, that infill that you have. You don't have to be downtown to be productive. This is the Whole Foods headquarters at 19 million an acre. Again, compared to the $800,000 Walmart. This is some infill happening on South Congress at 9 million an acre, right? But this is my favorite one. You asked about the biggest producer. 487 million an acre of value.
Oh my God.
For the Austinian. Again, to put that in perspective, this is 620 times the Walmart
Oh my gosh.
in potency. So the developer was at the lunch today, and I told everybody they should give him a big hug. I mean, he's just shoveling money and taxes out the door on this thing.
Is that a 1 acre lot?
I think it's smaller than an acre. So if you had an acre of it.
My
So
gosh.
that's the big buildings you kind of expect that. What's kind of awesome is the historic architecture too, that y'all have this lasting value in your community. It's this heritage that was built by your great-great-grandparents, right? So this is a shot down Congress from 1912. The Scarborough was built in 1909. There it is, 38 million an acre, 38.5 million an acre. So think about that from a portfolio standpoint. If you could have a commodity that was a high-level producer for over 100 years, is the Walmart going to be there 100 years from now? Is South Park Meadows going to be here 100 years from now? So the development patterns that are happening in your community today are the legacy that you leave behind for your children and grandchildren tomorrow. This is my favorite building, the Littlefield, 60 million an acre. Double the Scarborough, right across the street. This building, this is a postcard from 1886 when this was built. Still producing 68 million an acre in value. That's incredible potency. So just to run through what your bar chart looks like, this is your county taxes per acre. Here's county single family right here at $3,000. Here's the Walmart at $4,000. Here's the average city at $5,000. So the average city resident is paying more in county taxes than a Walmart. This is, let's BD Riley's. This is your average for downtown, producing about $100,000 an acre in county taxes. Scarborough, Littlefield, the Driscoll, Frostbank Tower. And this is kind of interesting. That's Frostbank Tower at, let's say, $539,000 an acre in taxes. That's the Intercontinental. This wasn't our first bar chart we made. We actually made this one first. And this building was just too obscene. It's producing $2.4 million in county taxes per acre. It's coming out of the Austinian. Isn't that crazy? We had to remove it because it distorted the chart. So just to recap, if you had 1.1 acre of that, it would equal the entire 20-acre Walmart, apples to apples. If you had 1.81 acres of this, the Intercontinental, it would equal the entire 172 acres South Park Meadows from a cash flow standpoint. Did y'all get that? If you had 7 acres of that, you would equal the entire 175 acre Galleria out at Back Cove. Or B Cove, sorry. BK. I keep on messing that up. So one of the fun things about the data that we had is we actually had Gwinnett County, Georgia. Anybody been to Gwinnett County, Georgia, or know Gwinnett? Are you from there? Okay. So the people in Gwinnett County, Georgia, when they hired us, they were just like, no, we're rural. We're not part of Atlanta. We're rural. And so they basically adopted this 100% suburban county idea, just suburbanizing like crazy. So here's the county. There's Atlanta, and this is DeKalb County, which splits Atlanta in two. And they're out here just developed. So y'all have heard of these cities like Lawrenceville? Anyone? You probably know it, but it's a town of 20,000 people. This county is 800,000 people in the county. So from a people per square mile basis, that's DeKalb County, which splits Atlanta. Here's Gwinnett, 800,000 people. So it's about 1,800 people per square mile. This is you guys, at about 1,000 people per square mile. Gwinnett County, when you go back to Atlanta, tell them that they're denser than in Austin, Texas. They're also denser than Charlotte, Nashville, Raleigh, Asheville. It kind of blew my mind. I'm like, there's the data. I mean, you guys are denser. How the hell did you achieve it? When we did their model, this is their value per acre. This is the peak of their model. $8 million of value per acre. And here's you guys. So you're actually cultivating more wealth out of your downtown than anything they have in their entire county from a value perspective. Here's their model. It's just like a big spread of yellow. There's no spot there. There's no center to it. You all saw the spikes, right? This is their model. It's like a big thick carpet. Nothing. This is what we typically see. So with Chapel Hill, you can tell where Main Street is. You can tell where Main Street is in Carborough. You can even see it in Hillsborough. You didn't see that in their model. So just to kind of have fun with it, we wanted to make like a, like what's their pulse, their economic pulse, their heart rate. So here's Nashville, Austin, and Gwinnett. 650,000 people, 1 million people, 800,000 people. Here's the pulses. So they're peaking out at 192 million. You guys are peaking out at 46 million, and they're like flatlining at 8 million. Just going broke, basically, just spread out. Y'all get this? Again, it's just using computer technology to visualize quantitative data and let people see the effect of their land use decisions. So just to close, I mean, y'all commented about policies and stuff like that. There are behavioral tricks that make me behave a certain way as a developer. In England, you used to be taxed on the number of windows you had. In over 100 years, people started boarding up their windows to avoid the taxes. They changed the tax policy. In France, you were taxed below your roof line. So here's your roof line. So this was essentially a tax bonus, right? So when the assessor goes out there, you're like, you can't tax me for this. It's clearly the roof, right? There wasn't a design guideline that made Paris become that way. It was a tax law. As we look at land, we see the same thing over and over again, and it blows our mind that no one uses computer technology to do analytics. You've got two values in real estate. You've got your value of your dirt, and you've got your value of the building on top of the dirt, right? This is your improvement value, this is your dirt. There's two values. If you pull your tax bill, you'll see both of them in there. We just get the computer to turn off all the buildings, and we do the value per acre of the dirt. Right away you see, that's blue, you cross the street, you go to orange. So right, you go from $15,000 an acre to $35,000 an acre. You double the value crossing the street. As I was presenting this in Cheyenne, Wyoming, the assessor was sitting in the front row, and she raised her hand immediately. She's like, "You don't understand." And I said, "What don't I understand?" She goes, "Well, the more land you have, the lower the value." Think about that. So if I have a half mile of road here, a half mile of road here, another quarter mile, I've got 3 miles of infrastructure. This person's got about 200 feet. 3 miles of infrastructure, biggest site on the street, which probably means I have the most capacity to build stuff. If I build more capacity, I have more trips, more car accidents, more fire calls, more commerce, more theft, police calls. I get more infrastructure, you're gonna give me a discount rate? She's like, yeah, that's our standard. And I asked her, I said, where'd you get this standard? Did Moses deliver it to you? I mean, where'd this come from? And this is why I presented at the International Association of Assessing Officers. I asked them where it came from, they didn't know. They're like, oh, you should talk to Larry Clark, he could probably change that. Like, it's seriously that insane. That's how the world operates. So there's a financial incentive to squandering real estate. Where do you find those big parcels? Not here. And if you have property downtown, you're actually taxed at a much higher rate, even though that road has been paid for 100 years ago. Do y'all get that? The reason why sprawl happens are these numerous policies that are built into the system to reward that behavior. So we see this in Austin. I mean, check some of this stuff out. Look at this one block right there. We've got people at one corner of the block at over $5 million an acre for the dirt. And just by going diagonally across the block, we drop down to less than $400,000 an acre. This is a commercial property. And you can see like these two guys here, just by crossing the property line, we've gone from about $1 million down to about less than 400,000 of value. And then here's residential in here. There's no rhyme nor reason to it, and it's because of this calculus that they have inside the system. No one does the analytics. So these aren't invisible market forces that are driving me as a developer to do these developments. These are policies that have built up and accreted over time that manipulate the market. And sometimes the policies hurt. You know, you can change them though. They're your policies, and this is your community, and you need to work with it. So just to recap and close, your county is worth $111 billion. Think about that. As a corporation, your county is 15 times all of your professional sports teams in your entire state combined. 15 times that. Your city is worth 10 times that. Your downtown is worth $4 billion, which are more than all of these teams. Or if another way of looking at it, considering the week, you're about 7.4 Spurs in value for your downtown. Let that wash over you for a second. I work in a real estate development company. We have a nightclub that's a tenant in one of our buildings. We had a debate when we decided to go from plastic cups to compostable soy-based corn cups. 2-cent difference in cups. We talked about it because we had to know the math about it. You think the owner of the Spurs knows Tim Duncan's towel bill? Of course. Do you understand what it costs for a street, or what you have to pay for your downtown services? These are all things that you have to bring to the attention of your community. And if you're not collecting the data, you can't manage it. So, I'm going to close with my favorite analogy. We measure potato chips, for crying out loud. I can tell you the sodium content in your potato chips. Understand the cost of your buildings, your land use patterns, and the choices that you make. I have to watch my diet. I can't eat key lime pie every night. So these are all things that you have to do, and just do the math. And